monosaccharide sugar. You're sweeter than...
Alright. So, once again, this is me. Garden City High School, class of 1998. Garden City Community College, class of 2000, where I was the fall 1999 homecoming king. And I'm pretty sure I still have a parking spot reserved for me there. From that point, I went on to the University of Kansas and had myself 4 junior years and 4 senior years to get my bachelor's, but I obtained a doctorate during that time in socialization with an emphasis in consumption. I drank a lot, went to clubs, had a good time. Timing. What we want to talk about is comedic timing. What exactly makes something funny? And especially I'm talking about timing more on a stand-up level instead of just, you know, regular conversation and, say, writing movies, plays, things like that. The first thing that we take into consideration is the tempo. Now, this is kind of the speed of your delivery. There's a lot of comedians, say Chris Rock. Chris Rock he attacks the stage. He's on it consistently. Fast delivery, jokes come one right after the other. My kind of tempo is that slow, drawn out, almost like a Western Kansas feeling. And Norm Macdonald is by far and away my favorite comedian when it comes to that. He's got this stupendously relaxed delivery, but every other sentence that he says is funny. You know, you need to keep, along with timing, you need to keep the audience with you. That's half of the part of timing is to not only, you know, deliver your lines like you think they should be delivered, but to, you know, work with the audience. You can tell when an audience is really wanting kind of that fast, quick delivery and when they're wanting a little bit slower. Second thing that we take into consideration when it comes to timing is the rhythm of your words. A lot of times, I'm a drummer as well, and I've talked to a lot of other stand-up comedians, and a lot of them are musicians, and a lot of it, honestly, it translates to the same thing. If you've ever been playing jazz, you know when they say that you know it's all about the notes you don't play. You know, 80% of communication, whether it be interpersonal or on stage, is nonverbal, and that's what the rhythm, the timing, the pauses are. It's a form of nonverbal communication. Speech patterns, you know, your syllable emphasis. Sometimes I look back to Norm Macdonald again. He just says words funny. You don't know, and it's something just, I mean, he'll emphasize another syllable, and it tweaks something in your mind, you know, all about what funny is. And I've tried to, it's a science and an art that it's really stupendously hard to figure out. And if you do, you can make a lot of money doing it, because everybody loves to laugh. People will pay money to laugh for a couple hours. They do it every day. Not much to me, though. Now, this gets me into pauses, punchlines. This is what most people think of when you're talking about timing. You know, you lead up to the joke and you get that little pause right before the punchline. In my experience, the best punchlines come from left field. The build up to the joke gets your brain going in a certain direction, and it comes to its own conclusion just as the comedian delivers the punchline, which is totally out of left field. Like, don't shout out the answer if you know this, but why couldn't Helen Keller drive a car? Because she's a woman. Now, terrible joke, you know, but it lets you know. I mean, you're thinking in your mind, well, she was blind, she couldn't talk, she couldn't feel anything, she couldn't hear. Maybe those are the reasons. No, it's because she was a woman. It throws you for a little bit of a loop, and within that loop, that's where your brain has no other choice other than to communicate by laughter. Laughter is one of the first things as a species, when we became social, that we learned how to do. And there's a lot of research that says that it came from, you know, you're in a high stress situation. You've got animals chasing you. You don't know whether you're going to find a cave to sleep in the rest of the night. Your fire might go out. So all of these terrible things that could happen are scaring people left and right. Laughter evolved as a communication device to where you didn't have to formulate a word to communicate that everything's okay, it's just kind of funny. This is one of those situations where we're not in danger. You know, it's just a giggle factor, you know? And this giggle factor exists not only in us. Chimpanzees, you tickle chimpanzees, they laugh. Some people say that they've been able to record rats doing the same thing. You know, if you turn them over and tickle to their belly, they'll giggle. And so, you know, chimpanzees, rats, these are social animals. So it kind of goes to reason that laughter, insofar as social animals, goes beyond what we do as well. So laughter is ingrained deep down in our brains. Right now, because I'm as a stand-up comedian, I'm a lot better at just working an audience and fielding things. So I'm just going to go ahead, cut forth my, you know, presentation and go for any questions you guys have. Yes, is the answer. Yes, sir.
When I think of comedy on the stage, my references are Bob Hope and Johnny Carson. And when I began to try to do comedy in plays, I would always think about how they would deliver it. And then I came a little bit to Groucho Marx. What's your reaction to those three comedians?
Those three, I mean, those guys started, you know, they were the archetype of what stand-up has become. You know, somebody had to write the format, and those guys do it. Johnny Carson had such amazing timing. You know, and timing is one of those things where if you can bring an entire house down with two words, one word, a sound, an odd look. You know, you don't have to say anything. If you're working your audience well enough, and it's a conversation. It really is. It's a one-way conversation, you know, other than the audience laughing. But it is. That's where the tempo comes in. It's where your rhythm comes in. It's where your pauses comes in. You need to have kind of an understanding of what your audience is feeling, which sometimes is very, very hard to do, because on stage, a lot of times, unless you're in kind of a more intimate setting, you've got nothing but lights. You might be able to see people in the first row. So as far as you know, there's just people in the first row. Nobody else showed up. Your grandmother might, you know, be somewhere back there clapping, or in my case, cringing. But hopefully that rambling answered whatever question you had. Yes, those are the archetypes, and their timing was impeccable.
I've always wondered, like, how comedians come up with their material. So is it like, do you sit down for 2 hours a day and like, now I'm gonna write my sketch, or is it just kind of like stuff you see, or it's probably different for all of them?
Each
like, how do you
comedian
do
is
that?
different.
Yeah.
There are comedians out there that write literally every single word, and they will practice in front of the mirror.
Mm-hmm.
I do not have the patience, the time, and I'm too lazy
Uh-huh.
to be that kind of comedian. You know, many things, it's just about what you find is funny.
Mm-hmm.
And then you've got to kind of find a way to take your experiences and form them in a way that communicates how funny it is to you to everybody else as well. And that's kind of a tough job, you know. Everybody's sense of humor is a little bit different. And you'll find that the comedians that I really like, not many people do. You know, Norm Macdonald, everybody kind of knows him, and I'll come back to that. Norm Macdonald is known as a comedian's comedian. His jokes are pretty short. He'll go on for a long story, but he won't give you a sentence longer than 10 words at any given point. But he gets all of that information in those 10 words. Being able to be malleable enough to go from your script as well. Because a lot of times you'll have, you know, people in the audience who want to chime in, generally after, you know, too many whiskeys. And you need to be malleable enough in your speech patterns and in your presentation as a whole to field something like that.
What has been your worst experience on stage?
Oh man. So the first time I did open mic, I told a absolutely horrendous joke. I mean, it was a good joke, but I mean, it was not PG-13, not even close. And it did very well. You know, the structure of it was right on. You know, I'd been thinking about this for a month or so before I got up the cojones enough to go and get on stage. And so in my mind, it did so well that I was like, all right, you guys want gross and weird? I'll give you gross and weird. So I specifically did that next time and tried to go a little grosser and a little weirder, but it wasn't as well thought out, it wasn't written as well. And I got about 200 people just looking at me. And I saw a good friend of mine who I'd had come to watch me, and she's up there the whole time going, oh God, oh God. And that didn't help at all. I'm really happy that she was worried for me, but that look on her face just crushes you. You know, to get up and bomb is one thing. To get up and bomb and then do it again the next week is what it takes to do well.
One more question for Sean. Anybody?
You mentioned Norm Macdonald several times, so I'm thinking about him. Like, he's hilarious,
Mm.
but it seems like he never really found like a broad audience.
Mm-hmm.
You know, which to me that's a credit.
Yeah.
You know, but I was looking at your breakdown and I wondered, does Norm Macdonald have punchlines? Does he? Because to me, like you said, he just says things that are funny.
He does, and a punchline, you know, punchlines don't always have to happen at the end of a joke. You can have a joke that lasts 5 minutes and have 10 punchlines in it. You know, one of my favorite bits that he does is about heart attacks and how everybody thinks hearts are good, and no, they're not. He's like, you know, it's about 100% chance that your heart will attack and kill you. And he keeps saying this. Everybody's worried about plane crashes and terrorists, and he's like, but what about hearts? You know, what's the chance a heart's gonna attack and kill you? About 100%. That little line, about 100%, had me rolling on the ground just because of the nonchalant way that he did it. It's a punchline, but it's not presented as such.